Welcome, everyone. I am so excited you're here with me today and getting a chance to understand all about healing. I'm Dr. Marcia Martin, the heart healer, and it is my absolute joy and deep privilege to be able to share this information with you because I find so often that people don't understand all that's available to them, or they have heard things like, well, you must have done something terrible in another life, and that's why you are having the problems that you are having. Let's be clear that the divine that love us do not punish us. And yet, so much of our understanding of the divine is about cursing and blessing. So let's get busy and understand what you can and cannot expect when you are dealing with the divine in terms of healing. First of all, let's look at who can be healed. Are some people just more worthy than others? What is healing? How would you describe being healed or having a successful healing journey? And as always, I think it is just so important that we understand the angelic helpers who can assist us. Life can be very tough. Life can be a difficult journey. But we must remember that we always have angelic assistance, and those angels love to make things easy for us. So now let's get deep into healing. First of all, we need to look at who can be healed. And if you have been told that you're too broken, or you are not worthy, or you're too bad, you did something that was terrible, or perhaps you're too poor, not good enough. If you've heard any of these things that put you in a category of not enough, and therefore you're believing that you cannot ask for and receive healing, please let that go right now. Absolutely everyone can be and is offered healing. It is not that the divine are withholding healing from you because either you're too bad, or you don't have enough money, or the miracles were all used up on the day that you asked. It is something that you are choosing because of either not knowing what is available to you, or because of the life journey and the life purpose that you have chosen in this life. So, healing is available to every person. There are no exemptions. Now, you're probably going to say to me, well, what about all those people that die? Dying is just an opportunity to change form. It is not the end to anything. It is the cessation of the physical journey that you have chosen this time around. Once you are complete, and you may not want to stay in your physical body. Therefore, healing for you would be to move on. So, there are no exceptions. Nobody is in the category of too far gone in order to heal. But everyone does have free will. And that free will, and your life journey and your life purpose is specific to you. So that means that you are going to have the most control over your life experience or your life journey. Everyone is equal in the eyes of the divine. That unconditional love and acceptance that is being poured forth onto everyone is continuous and non-specific. Everyone receives the same blessing. The way you choose to interact with it is up to you. So, everyone is equal, no favorites, and absolutely no one is being cursed. Now, this is going to cause many people, and myself included, when I first started, to wonder, well, if I'm not being cursed, then what's going on in my life? Why is my life going badly? And yet you tell me, Dr. Marcia, that, things are great and that I have free will. Well, you're not exempt from universal laws. So your actions are going to continue to have consequences. And if you are not aware of the universal laws and how to take advantage of them, you may be putting into action consequences that you would rather not receive. So let's take a look at a consequence that you may not want to receive, that you may have put into action without even realizing it. Now, it's not as unfair as it sounds, because we all have a time in heaven, a pre birth time in heaven, where we are aware of all of this information. And it's just a matter of tapping back into that information. It's not as though it's a trick or a game. And only the divine know the answer. And if you guess right, then you get the prize. These universal laws have not changed since the beginning of time, and they will not change in the future. They are complete, they are operating in the way that they need to operate, and they will continue to operate this way. So, the one that we're most familiar with is the law of attraction. This means that your thoughts, which are under your control, are magnetic. The more you think about something, focus upon it, add emotion to it, get involved with it, the more likely you're going to attract things that are similar. So let's say that I grew up in a family that was very disease conscious. And so there's a lot of talk about disease in the family. I hear all about these different diseases, and I hear all the statistics about who can get the disease and who can't. And there's quite a bit of fear surrounding disease in this family of origin. Well, it wouldn't surprise anyone that this family probably has a higher rate of disease than others because their focus is on disease. They are growing the idea of dis-ease. Something is out of order, something is out of alignment with God. They are growing the idea of disease, and they've attached fear to it. So it is even more pronounced in their energetic field, because not only are they thinking about it, but now they've attached an emotion to it. So it is not that the family is cursed when they decide to interact with disease. It is that's what they are focused upon. And all they need to do to step out of this relationship with disease is start looking at what's right and celebrate when they do have a healthy body. We've got to recognize how much power is in our hands and how little power is in the hands of the illness or the disease. Now, of course, it's much better if you get a hold of your mind before the disease sets in, before your body is working incorrectly. You can do it once it's already there, but do recognize that you're going to have to do some clearing and healing of the old program before you're really going to be effective with aligning with and really uniting with the program of good health. But don't worry, because you are capable of doing that. So let's just remember that all of the universal laws are commutable. That means they will not change. I'm sorry, not commutable, immutable. They will not change. And this is not for your punishment, but for your convenience. Because can you imagine if we lived in a world of randomness And one day it's spring, and the next day it's winter, and the next day it's summer, and the next day it's winter, and the next day it's fall, we would not be able to plant successfully or harvest any of our crops. Yes, we still do have some variation in the weather, but not summertime temperatures and then going to freezing. That doesn't happen in the regions that grow food. And that's why the plants are able to survive until harvest. So we want these laws because they give us a structure and stability. We also want these laws and the understanding of these laws because it's the same for everyone. If somebody teaches you about the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, any of the other universal laws, you won't hear one thing from one person and then another from another person unless they're confused about the topic themselves. But if they are truly in alignment with God, they will be able to teach you that these laws don't change and they're always going to operate the same way and at the same time for each and every person. So now let's take a look at what is healing. How do you get to that place where you are able to heal? Because that's what this topic is all about, letting you understand that yes, you can heal. So here we are in this beautiful month of April, which represents so much rebirth and renewal. So it's time for you to accept that into your own physical being and claim that healing for yourself. Step up and claim that renewal and rebirth for you, because that's what healing is. You are moving from the state of dysfunction to the state of harmonious function. You are completing the journey of sickness or illness or discomfort and entering into a new journey, your journey of health. But let's understand that every journey is going to be personal to you. So please don't waste your time comparing your experience with someone else. You have chosen to have this experience of illness or dis-ease because you feel that you're going to gain quite a bit from that experience. So it's really important that you are able to feel good about every experience you're having. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you get all excited because you have a disease, but I still want you to honor yourself and feel good about you and what all you've been able to accomplish. If you have come this far, if you're examining ways to be healed, instead giving in and saying, oh, well, it's inevitable, then give yourself a huge pat on the back for how amazing you are to recognize how powerful you are. And I'm going to share an example of a young man. I don't remember his name, but this young man inspired me when I heard the story and continues to inspire me today. Now, in my opinion, this young man is a hero. You may not think so because he did not end up being cured from his illness, but I see a hero within this person. So here's a young man who's born into a fairly affluent family and receives a very good education. And quite early on, it is clear that he is an exceptionally bright child. So he is put into all of the accelerated programs. And this is important because he needs to get to the place uh, by a certain period of time. So it doesn't matter that you didn't get put into an accelerated program. It just works in his chronology of his life. So again, no comparing. It doesn't matter whether you dropped out of school, healing is still going to be available to you. However, for this young man's journey, this path was necessary. So we have this young budding scientist who begins doing all sorts of experiments, moves through school very quickly, goes into the medical profession, and really wants to focus on cancer. He wants to find a cure for cancer. And he zeroes in on one specific cancer that has proven to be quite difficult to cure. It's a type of cancer of the stomach. I don't know its name and probably wouldn't pronounce it correctly even if I did. So he starts studying this cancer and he puts all of his focus on curing this cancer. He puts all of his he becomes very emotionally invested in working with this cancer. And not surprisingly, he contracts this stomach cancer. Now, you may say, oh, what a terrible tragedy. He didn't see it that way. Instead, he allowed himself to see receiving this stomach cancer as a gift. He enjoyed the research and the study and the intricacy of his experiments so much. And he had always wanted a human subject to experiment on. But as we know, that's not acceptable. You can only experiment in rats and perhaps monkeys. I don't even know about the monkeys. So he was always saying to himself, gosh, if I only had a human being to experiment on. Lo and behold, he gets this stomach cancer, and suddenly he has a human to experiment on. Long story short, he is able to do so much research on this particular type of cancer, this stomach cancer, and he moved that um, research ahead light years by being able to experiment on himself. Now, at some point, because he was more interested in doing the research than he was in receiving a cure for himself, he did pass away, transition to the next life through this cancer. But his legacy lives on because he left behind so many advancements in the cure for cancer. I don't know if he found a cure by doing these experiments on himself, but chose not to use it on himself because he wanted to continue the experiments. That I don't know. I do know that he finally used the cancer as his vehicle to transition. So now that's why this gentleman is my hero, because he is not concerned about what anybody else's journey is like. There are many other researching scientists who also do incredible work. He was just concerned that his journey for research would give him everything that he wanted. He used his free will to get the journey that was best for him. So, healing is not always getting a physical cure. Healing is being in alignment with the divine, being in alignment with your life purpose, living the life that feels best to you. When you have fulfilled your soul purpose, there will be no greater joy. Whether it means that you transition at an earlier time or a later time is really immaterial. What is true healing is being allowed to feel fulfilled. So let's take a look at why some people receive a miracle healing and others don't, even if they're not research scientists that want the disease in order to experiment. So, the reasons that some people may get that healing and others don't is because healing happens to be in alignment with their personal journey. It may sound strange, but the process of the disease may be more interesting to you than going on the path of healing. There may be more to learn for you by interacting with disease than there would be by interacting with the cure. Certainly, for this gentleman that I spoke to you before, he didn't want to cure himself because then he would no longer have subject to experiment on. So let's not say, oh, he wasn't good enough to be healed. Let's understand that the type of healing you receive will be what is in alignment with your greatest good. It will never be because someone is unworthy or unloved. And it will never be because they have done something for which they need to be punished. That is not a truthful statement. And I know it's a popular way of thinking, but it's not truthful. The other part about healing, and this is where we can sometimes really derail ourselves, is that if you don't believe that you can be healed, or if your family of origin or ancestral lineage do not believe that you can be healed, or perhaps that you're holding a belief that healing is the work of the devil or some other thing like that, if that's your belief system, you will not be able to receive the healing because it would feel so traitorous to you, so torturous to you. So you're not being punished by not receiving the healing. In this particular case, you would be honoring your belief system. As soon as you change your belief system, then you too could interact with healing that would actually bring you the completion of that disease and not a transition. And let me explain to you why certain people choose life journeys or illness experiences or drug addiction or something that alcohol. You may look at them and say, oh God, they must have really done something awful because look at the life they're living now. Let's be quick to be non-judgmental. Let's not get into the, whoa, look at that person, they must be really bad camp. There are so many reasons why we choose the journey that we choose. I don't know if you all remember Sylvia Brown. She was a wonderful angel communicator. She had a guide named Francine, and she was a trance medium, so that she would go into trances, and this guide that she called Francine would come through and talk. And she talked a lot about heaven. And she talks about one particular time when they took her to heaven and they rolled back. Hi, Sirius. So glad to see you. Love to have your questions. Let's just talk about healing today. If you have any questions, love to hear them. Or now, something I keep forgetting to mention, if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss, put that in the comments too. We won't talk about it today, but we'll get there. So now back to Sylvia Brown. Now she went up to heaven and here she is. And it's sort of like this is when the veil is quite thick, so it's more difficult to interact with the heavenly bodies, not the way it is for us today. But they rolled back this curtain of heaven. She said it was kind of like she was on a balcony. And they rolled back this curtain of heaven and they pointed down to earth and they said, do you see that man? And she said, oh, you mean that drunk lying in the gutter? Because here's this man in soiled clothes with empty drink bottles scattered all around him. And they said, yes, that man. She thought, yeah, what, why would you show me him? And then they pointed to another man and they said, oh, do you see that gentleman? And here's a nicely dressed gentleman carrying a briefcase, entering a building that said law offices. And she said, oh, yeah, that nicely dressed gentleman. Yeah, I see him. I said, well, he's an attorney, the nicely dressed gentleman, and the gentleman that you called a drunk, he's an angel. He is considered one of the saints of heaven. He's not an heavenly angel, he's a physical angel. He is considered one of the saints of heaven. You see, he gave up being rich and famous or whatever he could have been in that particular lifetime to teach the attorney compassion. So every day he lays in that gutter drunk, trying to help the attorney who chose to learn to be more compassionate in this life. He lays in that gutter trying to teach the attorney or giving the opportunity to the attorney to learn about compassion. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I hear that story, it makes me well up. Please put your judgment aside. Whether you are struggling with the challenge of an illness or whether you know someone who is, it is not because they are bad or unworthy. It may be because they have chosen the vehicle of illness to complete a life journey that is very important to them. So let us please be careful not to be judgmental. Remember the drunk in the gutter. The attorney looks like he's the successful one. The drunk is the saint. So let's put aside our worry that somehow you or your loved one is not good enough to be healed. When you feel that you are complete with your journey with that illness, in whatever form that takes, then you will experience the healing. You may experience the healing of the doctor that I mentioned to you earlier. Even though he chose to transition, he lived a life of such joy because he was able to live his purpose by being able to experiment on himself. Or you may enjoy the journey of walking through an illness to a certain point and then recognizing, wow, I'm done with this, I'm complete with this, and I am ready to receive healing. So, when activating healing energy, you do not need to be specific to receive. However, it may help you. So let's look at the two different ways that you can activate healing energy to see which one is best for you. If you know all about the disease and you know all that's happening and you know right down to the minutia, you may be able to create really good affirmations and visualizations and really strong statements of support that will help you be free of whatever has gone off the rails in another direction. However, if you just have a vague understanding, that's okay too. It is not important that you know every little aspect of your disease. And honestly, we got to remember law of attraction is always operating. So if you get caught up in the minutia of your disease, you may start identifying too much with the disease. You may be so caught up in the disease itself that you start stepping away from the energy and the alignment of healing. So, if you find that the disease is sucking you in because you're trying to learn all about it, I would just take some time away from that and go smell some flowers, go listen to the birds singing, go to a park and watch the children playing, watch a funny movie, do something that feels good to your heart and brings you joy and uplifts you. That is the way that you're going to be in alignment with healing. Healing happens up here in the heavenly place of love, joy, and peace. Illness happens down here in the low vibration of negativity, of worry, of fear, of anxiety. Get out of here, lift yourself up here. Get into a state of joy. Just let your cup overflow with joy and then open to receive healing. One of the most beneficial angels, and oh gosh, I see we're running out of time here. One of the most beneficial angels for healing is Archangel Raphael, and I'll get to him in just a minute, but I want to just go over a few more things. Healing too should be aligned with your comfort level. Please don't, again, compare yourself with anyone else. You don't have to do it the way Mary did it, or Paul did it, or Steve did it. You will find sort of the road that is right for you, the way of being, the way of alignment that you can just say, oh, I feel the presence of the divine. That is your best route to healing. So search around for different people's meditations, for different music, for different things that lift you up and bring you joy. And just keep checking in with your heart. When it feels good to your heart, that's what you want to use. So remember, though, you are not alone. Healing is a partnership, and the angelic beings are your partners. They are your life partners. All you need to understand is how to work with them. So, for those of you who are still new to the angelic realm or want to really understand how to work with them, I am having an angel summit this Monday, the 11th at 6:30 Pacific. I put a link there where you can go. Is it? Yeah. There's a link there where you can go and register, and you are going to learn three different ways. Three different ways you can communicate with the angels, as well as some of my favorite angel techniques. And then after you are really good at talking with the angels, I'm going to do another summit, and this will be teaching you my favorite angel techniques. And they're always teaching me something new that helps me in my life. But just on Monday, you're going to have a way that works best for you to communicate with them. And I will teach you a technique that will help you see the consequence of your actions. They're going to give you some long range vision. So if you have an important decision to make and you are really needing help, join me on Monday. You'll learn how to make that decision and feel really comfortable, because you'll be able to see up to 5 years in advance how that decision is going to impact your life. Now, of course, we know you can change your mind at any time. You can change direction. So just what this technique would do is, if from where you are right now, you make decision A and you don't change, you'll get this result. If you make decision B and you don't change, you'll get this result. You always have the option to change. So join me on Monday if you want to learn how to communicate with the angels and how to look into the future and make great decisions. But I want you to begin your healing journey right now, in this moment. And the way to begin is not to look at yourself and say, oh, I feel awful. I look awful. I don't like myself, or I don't like where I am. The way to begin is to say, I love you. Look in the mirror and say to that beautiful being that is you, I love you. And keep saying that every day as you move forward. You are the determining factor in your healing journey. The illness might be a better vehicle of exploration than health. So please, if you don't see that you are making the progress that you want toward healing, dive a little deeper. Get into that heart and say, okay, what's going on here? Why am I so attached to this dis-ease? Am I supposed to learn something? Is it teaching me something? Does it have some value for me beyond what I am able to perceive right now? If the answer to all those questions is no, then go over to your belief system. Am I believing that I am worthy to be healed? Or am I believing it's possible for me to be healed? And then if that is all yes, now go even deeper. Go into the heart and start clearing away any spirit of unworthiness that you may have collected over the years. You deserve to be healed if it is in alignment with your highest good. Now, the only reason it wouldn't be is because you can learn more from where you are and you've chosen that path, and it doesn't sync up with good health. So it's not a judgment, it's a choice. The other reason that it may not be happening for you is to remember we grow through challenge. It isn't the only way to grow. You don't have to stay sick in order to grow. I'm not sick. I have plenty of challenges and I am growing mightily. So I do want you to not feel that you have to hold yourself into a state of illness in order to grow. Give yourself permission to experience your best life. Now, the three helpers that we'll dive into more detail next week Archangel Raphael. He is your overarching vehicle of healing. He's on the green ray. His light, when you see his light or you see reminders of him, emerald green, not this green, emerald green. St. John of God. He is a wonderful being for mental healing. Now, there is really no difference in the healing modalities between mental, emotional, or physical, or even spiritual. Healing is healing. It just depends where the challenge is located. And Jesus, that Christ consciousness, is the energy that you want to connect with when you are wanting that miracle consciousness and full alignment with God. You have the best example of someone who was able to thoroughly understand who they were, what their mission was, and how to stay in alignment with God throughout their entire lifetime when you look at the life of Jesus, not the religious figure, but the actual life of the person, Jesus. So that's why I put so much emphasis on Jesus, is because he is the perfect example of how to move through challenges in the physical form and still do the most good for the most people. Other figures that are fantastic are Buddha, Kuan Yin, Muhammad, but Jesus from birth to death was the only one that I am aware of that was able to stay in that aligned state. And even when he had challenges, he did not move from that state of alignment. And, they're also telling me right now, there are many other ascended masters who also, Saint Germain is one, El Moira, Kuthumi. There are many ascended masters who also got to that place. Jesus is different just because from birth to death, he was able to hold and demonstrate for us that alignment. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I have the joy of going to my counseling group right now to help these incredibly fantastic beings who I am working with become even more fantastic. So until next time, next week, we're going to take a deep look at Archangel Raphael, St. John of God, and Jesus so that you can use them easily. And if you would like to attend the Angel Summit, please do so. I'd love to have you there. You will love working with the angels, and you will find at this summit a way that works perfectly for you. You came with a way to communicate. I'm just going to show you which one works for you and how you can strengthen it so that the angels can become your best friends and your best helpers. Thanks, everyone. Dr. Marcia Martin sending you all my love.